We're live. You can start talking whenever you feel like it.
Oh, it says scheduled. There we go. It says live now. There we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight on episode 33, season 5 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday throughout the season. We haven't discussed internationals yet, Richie, but we probably won't do that live. Evening. The NRL season's officially over, with the Panthers making it 4 premierships in a row in what was a pretty fast-paced final. How are you? You're obviously, for people watching at home, you're on location. But how are you and how was your weekend?
I'm good, thanks, Brad. Yeah, I've very much enjoyed the grand final. I thought it was defensive, but good spectacle. Amazing feat from the Panthers. Yeah, I am away from work, so busy, but I'm not going to shirk my responsibilities to the show on grand final review week. How are you?
I'm good, man. It was. I enjoyed the final. I know there was a few people out there that weren't that interested in that, going, it wasn't that great, but yeah, I thought it was more the defensive side of things that was impressive rather than scintillating tries that we've seen in years past. It would have been the perfect one for you to skip this week because Paul actually watched a game. It might be a bit easier when there's only one league game. So Paul would have been able to pick up the slack, which he'll probably do anyway.
I would be stepping in and saying it how it really was.
Yeah, you wouldn't leave me alone the whole game. You were giving me lots of pointers throughout the game on Sunday night.
He's the rugby league brain of us three, Brad.
Yeah. But yeah, while we're live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch the show at your convenience on Hideout Radio and Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of that grand final. We'll then answer some questions from you guys as well as questions prepared for each other. We'll then discuss what we're going to be doing next week on the show with no game to review. Before ending the night with a quick recap of Super League, because believe it or not, that is still going for at least one more week. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well jump straight into it, Richie.
Yep, sounds good.
As I said to Paul before we went live, I think I overcompensated, so there is quite a lot that I've thrown in, a lot more than what you got when I sent you the notes.
Gee, thanks.
But it's always better when you can't prepare. So a lot of it's grand final related, so we'll start there. Graham Ellerslie has confirmed that the bunker was correct to disallow Jack Howarth's try, saying, I've got his quote here, he said, "Look at it clearly, we can see a different colour between the arm and the ball. The ball is sitting on the arm." Paul and I discussed it a bit on the night. Paul more interested in how the commentators were talking about it, and what do you think about it, though? Because I still think I saw some ball touch the grass. I don't know if that's my brain linking things together that shouldn't. I know 360 showed a different angle, which helped defend the decision. I think, personally, if it was sent up a try, the bunker would have given it a try. But, yeah, I had no horse in the race.
That's pretty much where I sit in it as well. I don't know that the ball touched the ground, given the angles that have come out since that I've seen. It may have. It may not have. It didn't look like it to me. My initial thought was no try, but what I'm sure of is that whatever the on-field ref gave, there was no evidence, strong enough evidence either way to overturn. So I think I don't often agree with the refs and Graham Ellerslie, but in this case, I'm on board with what happened.
Yeah, and Paul's mentioned as well, he said it may have touched the grass, but it's not clear, so the bunker can't change the on-field decision, which, yeah, I think is where it's gone. It'd probably be a half an hour conversation if this was the Warriors in the grand final and that was the Warriors scoring that try, yeah. I'm sure. But with personal bias out, I'm happy to let them go. And there was a good comment from 360, actually. They said, they really like the fact that Ellerslie and co came out straight away. They showed the other angles that they see that we don't normally see. But they also put that point out. if they had made the wrong decision, they probably wouldn't be as quick to do that. But yeah, it's good to see. They did what they could in the decision. There was not really any big controversies bunker related, which we know Cleary was drip feeding in the background of his comments. So that was a bonus. But there was also a biting allegation against Cam Munster in the grand final. He was adamant he didn't bite, and the NRL confirmed that there wasn't enough evidence to charge him. So it was let go. Paul Alamotti also refused to press on with the charges. I don't think there was a bite. I could see he was getting like the headlock of doom that players love to do, where they got the forearm in the mouth. But yeah, I don't think you couldn't see a biting motion. It feels weird that we have to always discuss biting when it comes to NRL, and if there's chomping motions. But what did you think about it? Did you think Munster had a bit of a gnaw, or? I
don't think I saw a solid clamping down of the jaw. The arm was across the mouth region. You know, the Munster's going to be breathing in quite heavily, and I just think the arm was there in the mouth. I don't think he's taken a big. Yeah. I don't think there was any Mike Tyson action going on there.
Nah.
Yeah, heat of the moment stuff.
Yeah, so it was good to see that they haven't gone any further on it. But yeah, so always got to have something. Liam Martin also continuing with he won the Clive Churchill medal for his effort in the grand final, which I think was a valiant effort. We might talk about it a bit more in the review, but I thought he was one of the better ones on the field. I think it could have been a flip of the coin between him and Isaiah Yeo. Admittedly, though, I didn't pick either of them for my player of the match in our review, but yeah, I thought they were outstanding. You happy with Martin getting it?
Yep. I think the whole Panthers team, everyone was good. Everyone did their job. I think for big moments, that's probably what elevated Liam Martin to get the award. You know, the try involvement, jump in the Storm's wingers on bombs. His defense, I just think he had a lot of massive moments in the game that it pretty much meant he was worthy of the award.
Yeah, and I saw Jason thanked us for our content this year, and the Panthers were way too good. Too many options across the field that can step up if others shut down. The thing I love about them the most is when an offload happens, they shift the pill straight away. Everyone switched on. Yeah, there was actually a good segment on Sean Johnson's podcast, hashtag Brad promoting another podcast on the show again, where he a few weeks ago talked about the Panthers and Cleary and one of the moves they do. And they have so many different options off that play. And like I think the first week, Cleary put a grubber through, they scored off it. The second week, they had already watched that. It was the Alamotti. And then so this week, they knew that the Storm would have researched it, and they showed it was the exact same formation, the flat ball, and then Alamotti passed it back on the inside, which the Storm weren't prepared for. But beautiful. Johnson, with his insight, talked about how you could see Pappenhausen had covered where the kick would come through. The Storm had kind of done everything right, but the Panthers are just so good at always having plan B, plan C, plan D on anything. It's, a very, very well-conditioned and trained team.
Beautiful coaching, beautiful execution. It's just elite.
And Amanda said Liam Martin deserved it. All the awards this year were spot on except the rookie one. Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to Dally M's. But more importantly, mate, we've got to talk about Millie. We actually have a reason to talk about her this week.
You have to.
I sent the picture that I saw on Facebook to you and Paul, and it was not as well received as I thought it would be. But Millie Elliott / Boyle has joined Glenn Lazarus as the only players to win premierships on 3 different clubs. Millie, she's got help with not as many teams fighting for the competition, but she's got her premiership wins with the Broncos in 2019 and 2020, Knights in 22, and now the Roosters in 24. So I just wanted to mention it because I always seem to bring her into these shows, and we actually have a viable reason this time. But yeah, it's a hell of an effort.
It's a great effort. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to compare it to Lazarus, are we, Brad?
It's just you can't, but it's just they're the only two players that have done it. You cannot. I don't want to get in trouble for saying it's better than
immortal. I mean, he's really like says he's the first female immortal as far as he's concerned.
Greatest of all time.
The other thing is also that with so few teams, we've seen the women move around a bit more between clubs. So it's kind of you're in different teams, whereas as things get established, I think that's also been part of it. I'm not sure a team, and if it was established, where she'd be allowed, where any team would sort of not pay, they wouldn't pay. They'd make sure they pay her enough that she wouldn't move, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think we'll see it more. I think with more teams coming in, we've got another 2 coming in next year. I think we'll start seeing teams kind of build a base and kind of stick instead of chopping and changing. It is getting a bit better. You've got a few players that are kind of being one club players. And I guess it depends where Adam Elliott gets picked up when his contract's up. Because I assume if he moves to another area outside of Sydney, she would probably jump ship again. Makes sense. You go where your partner is. But yeah, congrats, Millie. We'll get her on the show one day, Matt. I'm sure she'll be our second ever proper guest.
I don't think you'd be able to summon any words, mate.
I'll get you to do all the talking. But yeah,
you say that, but isn't Cleary's partner a footballer in the UK, for example? So I think their kind of moves will have to be a joint decision now, rather than just one of them deciding, because they've both got sort of successful careers. But I don't think it's an automatically that she'll move just because the hubby does.
Well, yeah, technically her hubby moved for her when they went to the Knights. She joined the Knights and then he joined after. Yeah, the Cleary one's a bit different. You can't really compare Cleary with Adam Elliott. But yeah, that one, and I think different sports, they kind of jumped into it knowing. And yeah, Jacko said, forget Millie, get Hale back.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I would take Hale in a heart. I'm hoping that Hale comes back. I don't know how long her deal is with the Titans, if she can come back next year or if we have to wait another year. But I assume that Georgia will be back at the Warriors as soon as she's able. And she's in that situation that Paul mentioned because her partner lives in the UK. And she kind of does a split. She goes up to Leeds where Sam is and plays for the Leeds women's team during their season, then comes back to the NRLW. So she just does a bit of both, which you can do when the season's as short as it is. But we'll move on. We've already gone like 10 minutes talking about Millie. The Penrith Panthers, this kind of came out recently. They've confirmed they're pulling out of the World Club Challenge this year due to having to travel to Vegas for round 1 of 2025. An issue that we actually brought up when they were announced as a team going to Vegas this year. I jokingly said it's going to be weird having the Warriors there when the Warriors are going to be in the World Club Challenge, but the Panthers were there as well. There's been a lot of flack thrown at them, but I'll give them a little bit of leeway here because Wiggins also confirmed that if they win the Super League this week, they would not be doing the World Club Challenge because they too are going to Vegas. So is this the end of the World Club Challenge? I know I also jokingly said yesterday the Panthers are pulled out because the Panthers have never won one. So they don't want, they're sick of being the best team in the NRL and then losing the World Club Challenge. But it makes sense with both teams potentially having to play in Vegas because we said it was basically you do the World Club Challenge and the next weekend it's Vegas. It's a lot of traveling.
I don't think too many people really care about it. That's the thing. And it shows. I mean, the Panthers have
down
won
this side.
Yeah,
down this side, they don't care.
The Panthers have won 4 NRL titles in a row. If they really cared and put their best team on the park, they would smoke. They would smoke whatever team was opposite them in the World Club Challenge. But where it falls in the rugby league calendar, they use it. It's just there. It's a fixture. They don't play their full team. They use it to find combinations. It's
a warm-up game for the season.
It's a warm-up game, 100%.
Yeah. And like Simon said, the World Club Challenges always become dormant every couple of years, and then they get revived, which is, it does happen. But I think we're always going to hit this rut if the NRL team that wins the comp is playing in Vegas the following year. And Jagger said the World Club Challenge is a silly thing, means nothing really. See, you only say that because you don't have a team in it, where I have Wigan playing in it. So I was very happy that Wigan beat the Panthers last year, and they would have beat them again this year. But it's a lot more important to the UK, because I think, we kind of down here with the NRL, the NRL is the pinnacle of the two comps, to be fair, regardless of who wins that game. So I think the UK fans get really into it, having a chance to stick it up to the big brothers in the Southern Hemisphere by, beating their champs, which, as you said, is always an understrength side. But will be interesting to see. And Jagger said the NRL teams don't take it seriously. No, the NRL, they send the players that they have to. When especially they might throw a bit more out there if they're playing it in Oz. But when they're playing in the UK, they just throw the bare minimum out there. You usually have players are still resting because of internationals, which are usually your big boppers. Some of them are recovering from injuries. It's basically all the kids. So the only team that can really do that well with all the kids is us. So it's the only way it would work. But we'll move on. NRL Grand Final is up for sale in 2025. Peter V'landys is apparently welcoming all offers, with the MCG potentially becoming an option to have the Grand Final. What's your thoughts on taking the Grand Final on the road?
Yeah, why not? MCG is a pretty impressive stadium. It's got the big AFL oval shape, which the fans are a bit further back, but when it's full, it's an impressive stadium. That would be pretty cool. I don't know if Suncorp would have another crack, because they do big rugby league occasions really well, and it's a guaranteed sellout. But
I feel like I would only be interested if it went to somewhere like the MCG or somewhere where you don't see it every week. Like they have Magic Ground at Suncorp and things like that. But and if they ever wanted a chance to potentially sell out the MCG, the Grand Final is the only way they're going to do it. If they could, I still don't even know. They probably would still sell it out. It depends who's playing, to be honest. Because they got like 80,000 last week for the Grand Final. But what do you reckon, Paul?
At the moment, NRL really has got four centres, right? It's sort of Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Auckland. So why not rotate it around those four? It'll
never come here.
And also, I mean, look to the NFL. Look at move it around and then try and make a week of it, and have other things going on as well. I think it would be kind of cool, a cool thing to try and do, or make it like a 3 or 4 day event rather than just being on the day. And see if you can get other things going on.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, and how many places actually legitimately want to throw big dollars at the NRL to get the gig. So could be something we get to talk about at the beginning of season 6 of the standoffs. So we'll keep our ears to the ground on that. The NRL still been busy. They also announced Red Bull as their official energy drink partner from 2025. Andrew Abdo, I've got his quote here. Saying Red Bull is all about innovation, energy, and entertainment, and so is the NRL. I'm not a Red Bull drinker. I don't know how much innovation is. Isn't it still the same drink it was always?
I don't know how much they innovate. What have they got? Red Bull and sugar-free Red Bull? Maybe one other flavor.
Red Bull is a sports marketing company that happens to make money by selling cans of drink. All their innovation comes from the kind of extreme sports that they do. And if they can bring some of that marketing to the NRL, brilliant on that side. As far as the drink goes, it's a drink, whatever.
There you go. Bjorn and Simon have both informed us they've added new flavors. Okay, sorry. I don't drink a lot of energy drinks anymore, and if I do, it's usually the green one. It's usually V. So
I only drink it if it's got some alcohol mixed with it.
Yeah, Red Bull and Jaeger was the drink of choice, so that would be the Red Bull time. But yeah, it's another thing to try to get some money heading to the coffers for the NRL. Jerome Hughes, going no segue here, but he's been named the 2024 RLPA champion as the best player of 2024 as voted by his peers. I think well deserved. And a lot of people are talking about the Bears. That's coming up, so hold your farm. But your thoughts on Hughes getting the Player of the Year award?
Pretty much justified. It's just good that he got the Dally M as well. What Sean got last year, but hey, I mean, he probably over the course of the whole season he was the best player. I think.
Yeah.
Not too many people are going to push back on that.
Yeah, and Paul saying we've got another half hour of news to go. We're almost done. We're getting through pretty quick. Before we get into the Dally M's, the Western Bears, there's been a few comments about it. So the Western Bears bid to join the NRL. This is confusing, so bear with me, mate. I've got a lot of it here. It appears to be over with the NRL rejecting their proposal after that we talked a few weeks ago about them basically already being confirmed. The NRL have said they now want to work directly with the Western Australian government instead of with the Bears. Peter V'landys also said that the only expansion bid that was up to scratch so far to become the 18th team was Papua New Guinea. I've got his quote about Perth, so I'll just read this word for word. The bid that they put in was significantly short. No bid team can take the expansion process for granted. I have made this clear from day one. We'll only expand if there is a firm business case. And at the moment, Perth's business case doesn't stack up. If we can't stack it up, I can't take it to the members for consideration. All I will say is that their bid is extremely short. Although today, V'landys has said that it's a fallacy to say that the Bears are dead. So who really knows? He said, like, the bid's over, but they're not dead. So I don't know. That's Australian speak, I guess. It sounds like it's dead and buried. And Simon said he thought the Christchurch bid got rejected as well. Peter V'landys saying that Papua New Guinea was the most realistic bid out of all the teams, but I don't think he's in the right frame of mind. I think the issue is the Papua New Guinea one might be the best bid on offer, but it's because all the money is coming from the government, where the other ones are money coming out of their own pocket. Which is interesting. And yeah, Bjorn said interesting, as media said it was a done deal a few weeks ago. We even said that. We said it hasn't been officially confirmed, but it's basically been confirmed behind closed doors, which is what we heard. So now it's all gone. This is what happens when you have to rely on South African and Australian doing all the decision making.
Look, I mean, common sense has prevailed, right? A team that's split between Sydney and Perth is a joke. So yeah, ditch the Bears bid, and talks Perth back having a proper bid. Good on them. Well done.
I'm happy to not see it as the Bears. I agree with that part. I said from the start I wanted to see the Perth team be its own identity. Mark Roberts said Mr. Rugby League's just money hungry. Yeah, but you need more money, I guess, to try to do things. I just want to see the money invested. And Simon said, I think the Western Australia team could work not sharing with the Bears. Yeah, I think as it's standing on its own 2 feet, if they can get it across the line, I think it is well. If you talk to people on this side of the Tasman, the South Island Cares apparently almost seem certain that they're in the NRL. They've got a website basically saying that already. So I really don't know. It feels like Peter V'landys is kind of tapping everyone on the shoulder and saying, "Yeah, mate, it's you," and then coming out and saying, "No, no one." So I don't know. It seems so weird.
Twiggy Forrester, as Simon says, could get it across the line for Western Australia easy. Jack says, PNG has so many problems, even with government promise huge money. I'm surprised it's a goer. No, look, he didn't say it was a goer. He said the bid was the best put together bid. Right, so they've actually done their paperwork and done the homework. He's not saying it's actually a goer, but he's saying that look, at least they've done their homework and they know how to put a bid together. No one else has even been able to put a bid together, which is damning in the extreme. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, I think, in all honesty, if the government's willing to throw millions and millions of dollars at you, any other bid from a private entity is going to pale in comparison. So they have that on their side.
Okay, but it's actually. He said, look, they've only given us 5 documents. You need 20 documents just to cover everything. And they've just not done the due diligence of how to, they've not really made a proper effort about it, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Simon said the South Island Cares is not a realistic bid. David Moffat's a lunatic who makes up schemes every couple of years. The other South Island bids were more realistic. Yeah. Well, it's going to be a mess until it's not, basically, which is going to be interesting for us as we talk about it. Bjorn said whoever gets in, we just need Brad to be their discipline advisor. Yeah, no. Any team in the NRL, any of you that are watching, if you want me on the books, I can help out in all facets of things. You name it, I'll do it.
We'll even put a disclaimer on here about the conflict of interest that absolutely, that only Richie can talk about that team. So we're more than happy to, New Zealand
Cameron, I know you're watching. If you've got a job somewhere at the Warriors, I'll take it. I've said that many years. Whatever it is, I'll do it. Though they're the one team I can't help but discipline because they'll get punished severely. Mark Roberts said Western Reds failed after 2 seasons. Why not bring back Gareth's favorite team, the Rams? Yeah, the Western Rams. I don't know. We'll be talking for hours about it. We just don't know what's going to happen. So hopefully we've got a bit more when we come back next year. But we'll get into Dally M's, Matt.
Yeah.
Before that, apparently Adam Blair might be off to the Knights. I did see that, but it was behind a paywall, so I couldn't read the article. But apparently the Knights are interested in bringing Blair in to do something. But we'll see. And Simon said the Adelaide Rams make sense. I didn't think about letting the Rams stay where the Rams were originally. I just moved them to Perth like we did with the Bears. Adelaide Rams. But we'll table that. We'll be here for all night. Dally M's, mate. It happened not long after our show last week. I've got the list of everyone. We'll go with the men first. So before we go into the team and the Dally M, I'll go through the individual awards. We had the headline moment was Xavier Coates' wonder try against the Warriors.
No.
The Proven Summons medal, which was the one we talked about going to charity work, went to Tyrone Munro from the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Coach of the Year went to Craig Bellamy. Rookie of the Year went to Jack Bostock, which was interesting. Captain of the Year went to Stephen Crichton from the Bulldogs. Try of the Year went to Xavier Coates. Again, same try against the Warriors. Tackle of the Year went to Tom Dearden from the Cowboys. Ken Irvine medal for try scorer or top try scorer went to Khan Pereira from the Titans, and top point scorer went to Valentine Holmes from the Cowboys. You got anything to say on that before we talk about the team of the year?
It's mostly all good. Not a fan of Coach try. If it was against any other team, I would have been a fan of that try. But for the who it was against and the situation to win the game, hated that try. Bostock kind of gets a bit of a gift there with Lockie Galvin not being eligible, but I can live with it because that's the rule.
I would have had Iro above him myself.
Yeah, I can live with Bostock. He played pretty much the whole year and scored a good amount of tries.
He didn't even make finals, mate.
No,
at least Iro made finals.
That's on the team.
But then I guess in that argument, I always give it to Galvin, who got the wooden spoon.
Exactly.
So that throws my argument out the window. But yeah, I think most of it wasn't that surprising. It was, the rookie was the only one that had like a question mark. I think everything else was kind of what you expected. That try you don't like that much will appear next week on my side of things when it comes to awards. As much as I don't like it, but it was spectacular. But team of the year. So the fullback was James Tedesco. The wingers were Zach Lomax and Brian To'o. Centers were Stephen Crichton and Herbie Farnworth. 5'8" was Tom Dearden. Halfback was Jerome Hughes. Props were Joseph Tapani and Adam Fanua-Blake. If you want to remember a few weeks ago when you asked me who I thought the best props should have been, those were the two I picked, mate. So I'm as good as Dally M right now. Not saying much. Harry Grant was Hooker of the Year. Angus Crichton and Elise Kotoa were second rowers of the year, and Isaiah Yeo was lock. And Jerome Hughes, thankfully, it was a lot closer than I thought it should have been, but he held on and got that Dally M. Won it by 1 point, man. I thought they were going to take it off him. And then head and shoulders above everyone else. You know, he got 62 points. Tedesco got 61. DCE was third with 51.
And I think your question to me a few weeks ago was there anyone else that was competing with Hughes for the Dally M? And I said Tedesco. I thought he was creeping up there, but I'm glad the right person got it. Yeah.
It would have broken New Zealanders' spirit if another Kiwi got, shirked of the Dally M. And Bjorn said, you guys need the stand-off awards. Yeah, that's next week. I haven't thought of things like that. You've said best high tackle. This is very professional. I'm just writing these down.
Write some down, Brad. We'll make a 3-hour show out of it.
Best high tackle. Best 10 in the bin.
Worst ref calls a cracker.
Worst bunker call. Worst. This is great content. Watching me write on a piece of paper.
I can tell you worst ref call already. It's going to be that disallowed try by the Bulldogs, or the try that was allowed by the Bulldogs against the. Because the boys aren't bitter about that at all, as we found out in the last few weeks.
I've already put down the awards. We do the awards spoilers for what we talk about later. That's next week. I've already picked my winners for most of the ones we normally do, and there is the Bulldogs Warriors fiasco is already involved in one of my selections, but it could be added. But yeah, we'll add those in there. I'll send you a list later on, Richie, of all the awards for you to do your picks, so I can make the pretty pictures. But
nice.
Yeah. We'll go to the NRLW. So same as what we just did with the men, I'll go with the other awards first. So the Proven Summons Medal for Charity, Georgia Hale and Zahara Tamara both shared it, Titans and Raiders. Coach of the Year went to Scott Prince for the Broncos. Rookie of the Year went to Casey Ray from the Dragons. Captain of the Year went to Tiana Penitani from the Sharks. Try of the Year went to Zali Faye from the Eels. Abigail Roach got Tackle of the Year. And then try scorer was shared between Julia Robertson from the Broncos and Sheridan Gallagher from the Knights. And top point scorer was Romy Tatal from the Broncos. Team of the Year, fullback of the year was Abby Church from the Eels. Wingers were Julia Robertson and Stacey Waka from the Broncos. Centers were Isabel Kelly and Tiana Penitani from the Roosters and Sharks. 5'8" was Zahara Tamara. Halfback of the year was Lauren Brown. Props were Shannon Mado and Millie Elliott from the Titans and Roosters. No surprise. Hooker of the year was Kelly Davis. Second rowers of the year were Olivia Koenig and Yasmin Clydesdale from the Roosters and Knights. And Simi Talfa from the Raiders got Lock of the Year. And Olivia Koenig from the Roosters got the Dally M for the year. And
then she didn't get selected for the Jillaroos.
Yeah, that was interesting. I was quite surprised you get the award for the best player in your competition, and then you don't get picked internationally. But yeah, I thought she was great. I thought we're not doing a full review of the actual women's grand final, but I thought she was fantastic in that game as well. I think she got a double. But yeah, she was really good and should have got higher honours this year, but that's Australia's problem. But yeah, I'm happy with that team. I haven't got to watch as much as the women's game as I usually try to do, but I don't see any names in there that stick out as someone you'd say shouldn't be there. So I was happy with it. I basically only look for who the prop of the year is. So.
Of course.
So we'll move on then. Before we get into signings, the international game is about to go underway, and they announced all the teams. I've given Paul pictures, which I'm hoping he remembered, of the squads. I've only done the big three. No offense to Samoa, but it was hard to fit them all onto the slide.
No offense to Australia was there. I've normally seen them in yellow, so I was a bit surprised. I was like,
Australia's green in league. How I'll say the Australian squad, you say the New Zealand squad, and then we'll discuss the Tongan squad, Matt. So I'll go Australia first. It's in alphabetical order. Mitch Barnett, Matt Burton, Bradman Best, Pat Carrigan, Xavier Coates, Lindsay Collins, Ruben Cotter, Angus Crichton, Tom Dearden, Dylan Edwards, Harry Grant, Ben Hunt, Zach Lomax, Liam Martin, Mitchell Moses, Cameron Murray, Reece Robson, Lindsay Smith, The Hammer, Tommy Turbo, and Isaiah Yeo. Interesting. I think they said it was the first time, and I can't remember how long, that both captains of the Origin sides did not make the selections. With Jake Trbojevic and DCE not making the team.
Yeah, DCE is a big one for me. I
don't understand why he isn't there myself, but
I understand, Cleary not being available. Then I automatically think DCE. But Mitch Moses was really good in Origin as when he was there. So I mean,
he played one Origin game and he played like 10 NRL games this year,
and he was very good, wasn't he?
Flat track bully. I saw that and immediately put all my money on the Kiwis to win this Pacific Cup.
The other interesting one is Lindsay Smith getting rewarded for a good year of form. So it looks like Mel's looking to pick on form, which is good. They got to try something different after what happened last year.
Yeah, and Jack said Aussie side's not as strong as I thought it would be, but who knows? Yeah, it's not as strong as I expected, but it's still a hell of a team.
And that same goes for us too.
Well, I don't know if we can say a hell of a team for us.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think it's the best team that we could pick, but and before we go on to Kiwis, congrats to Mitch Barnett for making his selection debut for the Kangaroos after a good year with the Warriors. I think I finally did it last week, Matt. I finally finished the season review on my website. It's not only a good thing for Mitch Barnett, it's good for the Warriors. He is kind of like a shining beacon. You can show to potential players you bring it in from Australia now to say you can come to the Warriors as a guy who's never played Origin, never played for your country, and actually still get selected despite being in New Zealand. So it's if you work hard, you can still get those rewards. So will be interesting actually having a guy in the Australian team that I want to see do well. Amanda said Mitch Barnett. Yeah, roasting CNK for congratulating him was quite funny. Yeah, because if Paul White wouldn't have seen it, but Chans sent a text to Mitch Barnett congratulating him on making the Kangaroos and said like, "Congrats, bro," and Mitch Barnett replied back saying, "I'm not your bro." So they're ready to go to war already, which is good to see. But yeah, the New Zealand squad, mate, if you want to go through that. Sure. Aaron Clark, Phoenix Crossland, James Fisher-Harris, Peter Hiku, Jerome Hughes, Jermaine Isako, Keanu Keeney, Casey McLean, Griffin Neem, Chance Nuku-Klustab, Cody Nikarima, Marata Niokore, Isaiah Papali'i, Jordan Ricky, Scott Sorensen, Joey Tapine, Leo Thompson, Trent Talau, Will Warbrick, Nafahu White, and Mary Tomoko.
Yeah, it's a good side. And I got distracted by Bjorn. He said, "Have we had a current Warriors player play for Australia before?" He is only the second one to debut for the Kangaroos from the Warriors. Richard Villasanti is the only other one that's made his debut. Yeah. But yes, Steve Price. Did Brent Tate play for the Kangaroos while he was with us?
I can't recall.
There are a handful, not a lot, but there's a handful. But yeah, Steve Price is the definite one in there. Your thoughts on the squad, mate? I know we, along with Ruin Hammer, talked quite a bit about this yesterday. You and Ruin Hammer, I'm going to say, are a very negative people compared to me. And Rue's here. He is there. And he said, yeah, Tate did play in 2008. So you guys all hate this team. You said it's the worst team you've ever seen. I'm a bit more positive.
I wouldn't go that far, Brad.
I think I've got the messages to prove it, but
don't read them
continue.
Defend yourself. Private, Brad. That's private.
Yeah. So your thoughts?
It's just lacking in areas due to people being unavailable.
That's 12 players. 12 players unavailable due to injuries and suspensions.
Exactly right. So what do? Your hands are kind of tied, and you have to pick a squad like this. There's still class in there. Obviously, you got your Fisher Harris keeping the captaincy, Jerome Hughes, Dally M. There's a lot of good players in there. It's just going to be lacking a class in the spine, due to unavailability. We're going to lean on Jerome Hughes a lot.
Yeah, and like Rue, he said it's an average squad. He's got his Australian bias on there. Everyone said that last year, and look what happened. So, thing is, I think Jacko and Bjorn said about Stacey Jones as the coach. I'm still not sold on him as the coach, but our coach that we had, dumped us as soon as another pretty girl popped up. So who he's now just cheated on with the Broncos. So I'm hoping they do. There's a decent forward pack there. Outside backs, it's just like you said, the halves, but the Australian halves are mud as well. So I think we get to balance each other out there.
I don't think their halves are mud.
Mate, who their halves going to be? Mitch Moses and
Tom Dearden.
You think it's going to be Tom Dearden? What are they going to do with Burton? They're going to make Burton the centre?
Or Burton, but I feel like they'll go Dearden and Moses.
So you got the flat track bully and Dearden. Easy
Good
peasy.
Players.
Easy peasy win for us. And Jacko said, come on, we turned down Bennett for Jones. Yeah, I was on the Bennett camp. As soon as he said he was interested, I already had a jersey ready to go his way. And Amanda said, I'm looking forward to seeing more of McLean. And I even said to you guys, there was a couple of players in there I had to Google because I didn't know who they were. There was Trent Talau, and who was the other one? Can't remember.
It was McLean, wasn't it?
It probably was McLean, yeah. Casey McLean. It was like, who the hell are these guys? So and Peter Hiku, I think so. There was a message earlier on saying Peter Hiku's an interesting choice. I think that's solely down to injuries.
Where do you think they see Hiku playing?
I think Hiku, to be honest, is there as a centre option if someone gets hurt. I don't see him in your 17. I would be going like I did. I put Isako in my centres.
You don't start getting concerned they're looking at him as a spine option.
Nah, they won't do that.
We've seen it in the past. I'm a fan of Hiku, by the way. I just think he's probably a few years past his best.
I think if they do anything a bit left field with the Haas, it'll be Chance going into 6.
Yeah.
That'll be it. But yeah, I'm not expecting Hiku to play, to be honest. I think he's there as depth cover.
I think I love Hiku. I've always thought he's a good player, but he's just probably a few years past his best and been competing at a lower level in the Super League.
I can't like him, mate. I can't. He was mean to me at a training session at the Marlins years ago before he had just signed to join Manly. He made fun of my vertical leap or lack thereof. So
I like him even more now.
I can't do it. He teased me. It wasn't right. It hurt my feelings.
What do you mean? He was being factual?
Yeah, there was a bit of a vertical leap in there. It wasn't as good as his, but I'm also a front rower, so leave me alone. I got at least an inch off the ground. But yeah, segue back to Tonga, mate. You're better with pronunciation. I'll let you do it again.
Yeah, Paul Alamoti, Kulikifipuni Puyaki, Adam Whanua Blake, Saliva Havili, Lihai Hopewari, Isaiah Iongi, Elisa Katoa, Isaiah Katoa, Sione Katoa, got a hat-trick of Katoas there. Felice Kafusi, Kion Kolomatangi, Tolu Kola, Tui Lolahia, Sonny Luke, Haumole Olokoatu, Taniela Paseka, Moses Suli, Jason Tamalolo, Daniel Tupou, Satili Tupunua, and Siwa Wong.
It's not a bad side. I think I said to you and Ruin Hammer, it's got like a great pack. It's an ongoing theme for all three teams, in my opinion. Great team, a bit of issues around the spine. But that's been Tonga's case for as long as they've been successful in internationals. The past couple of years, it's always been they've got a great forward pack, outside backs, but they've got no halves. When you see Lola here gets picked, you're in trouble. But they'll be competitive. This it should hopefully be a competitive tri-series, basically, between these three teams. So looking forward to it. Starts next week. Australia-Tonga, I think, is the first game. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
That's a scary squad, in my opinion, though. That forward pack has got a lot of fear factor about it. I think they're just a top-class hooker and a really, really good number 6 away from being a serious threat to anybody.
Yeah. And Bjorn said, is there a game in Auckland? If so, are you going? There is. It's Kiwis, Tonga. I am not going at the moment. The price was a little bit out of my reach, and I think it's all but sold out almost. So I am trying to look because I think I don't know if she's watching. But I'm pretty sure the Kangaroo, the Jillaroos and the Kiwi Ferns are playing beforehand, which means Millie Elliott will be at Mount Smart Stadium. So I am trying to get tickets to go watch her for the first time.
You're in trouble, mate.
But I am still looking. It'll be cracking. Bjorn said he's looking at going to the game at Suncorp.
It's going to be all red.
Yeah, it'll be all red like it is whenever Tonga get to play here. It's always a great atmosphere when Tonga get to play in New Zealand as well. So I'm hoping to go to it. But that's it. We'll move on to signings, Matt. There's probably a few more, but I've got 3. Rue said incoming restraining order coming. Yeah, probably. Regan Campbell-Gillard, finally, no more speculation, Matt. He has signed a 3-year deal with the Titans. It was a good interview with him afterwards when they talked about it. He basically said that when he retires, his family wanted to move to the Gold Coast, so he's just moving there early.
It's not as good as the press conference that Brent Todd had when he announced he went to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, no, we can't talk about that on here, mate. We'll get Paul restricted. But yeah, I think it's a good signing for the Titans. I think we talked about it at length when we were talking about it as a rumor. But yeah, good to see him finally get a deal done. Titans have also extended Cleese Haas until the end of 2027. And the Eels have signed Jack Williams on a 3-year deal. And Simon said Gold Coast Titans, the retirement home of the NRL. Yeah, I love the Gold Coast, so I wouldn't say no to go in there and playing. But yeah, all good signings. I think Jack Williams might get a bit more game time with the Eels, so I think that's a decent signing.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I think he was quite good this year. That is a decent signing.
So we'll go to injuries, mate. Nothing very big. It was just I noted down some players that we didn't talk about in the internationals because they're out. So 3 of the players I had in my Kiwis team we talked about last week are all out. So Ronaldo Mulitalo with his knee, Brighton Nakora with his ankle, Kale Iro with a hamstring, and Moses Leota with a shoulder have all been ruled out of the internationals to recover from their injuries. I couldn't see any work on if they're going to need surgeries or not. It looks like it might just be rehab. Nathan Cleary is going to have shoulder reconstruction surgery in the off-season and should still be a good chance to play in round 1 in Vegas. I did hear that they're delaying his surgery so he can go to the UK and see his girlfriend. So, well done, I guess. And Cody Walker has had surgery to fix a meniscus tear and should be ready to go in round 1. So not a lot of injuries there, but there's a whole lot of surgeries that are happening. I just didn't want to write them all down due to how long. Yeah. We're an hour in already, mate.
It's that time of year. It's surgery time.
Yeah. Naughty boy, we got nothing. Closest was the attempted bite. So we'll move on. The NRLW Grand Final. We're not reviewing the game, but the Roosters defeated the Sharks 32-28. I actually watched this game. Thought it was very entertaining. Yeah, Sharks had me scared because the Roosters, it was 24-0 at halftime. I came out and said, I text you and Ruin Hammer and said about how amazing the Roosters are. And then the Sharks just started piling on the points. Olivia Koenig sealed the deal for the Roosters to get them across. But yeah, thought it was a very good game. And congrats to the Roosters. In the last year, I get to support them. So at least one of I might get 2 out of my 3 teams win this year, mate. If Wigan next week. So we'll move on to the actual game, mate. Panthers defeating the Storm 14-6 in the grand final.
It was in the grand final. It was three tries to 1 for the champs, Sundia Taruva, Liam Martin, and Paul Alamotti. And just the 1 try for the Storm, the opening try of the game, Harry Grant.
Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest win from the Panthers here, making a lot more errors than we expect them to. But they were not overruled by the occasion, which has to be expected with this being their 5th grand final in a row. Had a game plan and stuck to it, targeted the Storm players without grand final experience, and just applied pressure until they spotted their opportunities. Outstanding defense too, with them scrambling like every tackle was to win the game. A lot of changes once again after this season with the roster, but it'll take a brave man to not have them as strong premiership contenders again. Your thoughts on the Panthers?
I thought it was just vintage Panthers over the last 5 years. A huge element of been there, done that. The finals experience showed they did what they always do come this time of year. They squeeze, played up tempo, turned forwards under, just targeting the middle until Storm were just too gassed to respond pretty much. That defense is just built for this time of year. When you look at the Storm, their spine, they've been putting big amounts of points on most teams, and to only score 1 early try through a dummy half crash over. That's what the Panthers build their premierships off at this time of year. Just that defense. And like I was saying earlier, like pretty much everyone stood up and did their job, but there were a couple that Isaiah Yeo I thought was massive. Liam Martin, well deserved for the Clive Churchill, but yeah, I think it's going to be a long time before we see another team repeat this kind of thing.
I think that the Storm played into the Panthers' hands a bit here as well. They played very direct. They played a lot more direct than the Panthers. Whereas I think the Panthers at one point, I messaged Brad that the Storm had done 69 passes to 113 by the Panthers, which showed you that there are a lot more play. Which I think that allowed the Panthers forwards to have a bit of a break. take a breather. Whereas the Storm's forwards were having to defend and attack, and they didn't get a break, and that's why I think they got gassed. And the Storm played. The commentators were talking about the pace of the game. The Storm were weak, equally in that they were trying to play at pace as well, but because they didn't give their forwards any time to breathe, they played straight into the Panthers' hands, who tactically gave their guys, because in post contact meters were 168 to 146 at that time, so the Storm were getting better post contact meters, but they'd gassed their players, and the Panthers came through, played the long game.
Yeah. Your thought on the Storm, Matt?
I quite agree with Paul. Actually, I think the Storm did play into Panthers' hands, but it was kind of, they were forced. The game was played on the Panthers' terms, and that was dictated by how the Panthers played. And you see how the Storm have played all year so freely. Normally, there's at least one, normally two or three of their spine, extremely dangerous. But that spine that's been so good all year just didn't look as dangerous as they have all year in this one. You know, Hughes, Pappenhausen, just they didn't look to threat. They didn't look to be as threatening in this game as they have been all year, largely because of how the Panthers played. So I don't think the Storm were terrible by any means. I thought they showed a lot of guts to, you know, even though they were gassed and the Panthers were playing well, they still kept the game quite close. But it was, I definitely thought the better team won. Maybe if that try was given, but even still, I think the better team came out on top.
Yeah, Storm were very error prone here, and that was all just based on pressure from the Panthers, like you and Paul have already said. And after a season of some great performance from their Dally M winner, Hughes was very quiet here. I know I don't want to sound facetious here. There was some stories coming out that, you know, the reason he wasn't really seen in the game was due to he's got a neck injury and a shoulder injury. But he's also said that he's going to play for the Kiwis, which doesn't make sense. So I feel like it's a cop-out. No disrespect to Jerome. But Jerome's at best when he's got his buddy Nelson out there, and I think they missed Nelson a lot more than they expected. They did stay in the fight for the entire 80, though. They didn't give up. They just could not find an answer for that Panthers defense. But they'll be looking for revenge in 2025. I think you could almost put money on this being the grand final again next year, and not be risking your money too much. Your player to stand out?
I didn't cheat and go with Clive Churchill winner, but I went with Isaiah Yeo, which I think he actually, you know, if it got given to him, I couldn't argue that either. I just thought massive shift. He goes all day, ton of meters, ton of runs, ton of tackles. He's built for this time of year. And I think he's been one of the mainstays of this dynasty, and one of the big reasons why they've been so successful.
Yeah, great pick. Paul said Nathan Cleary top fantasy points with 94. I went with Cleary. I felt I needed to justify it, so I put some stats down. I think we saw a message earlier from Jacko about it, and a thing the Storm didn't prepare for, which was Cleary running the ball. He ran 212 meters, which is crazy. Crazy for him. It's crazy for a halfback that isn't known as a running halfback. It still counts. creates holes, Paul. That's it. You leave it to the brave men, the front rowers, to run it up the middle. But yeah, 212 running meters. He had a line break assist, a try assist, 475 kicking meters. And I thought the Storm were going to get there because there was a tackle where he held onto his shoulder, and it's like, he'll go off here, and this is where the Storm managed to come through. But he was fantastic, as he always is. The only thing, if you want to be a dick and like criticize him, was his goal kicking. 1 from 3, which made it a bit closer. But fantastic effort from him, which we're always used to. And yeah, thought it was a great game. I know a lot of people weren't happy with the grand final. They wanted to see a lot more tries, but man, when you see a team that can just be a defensive powerhouse and they do nothing but defend, it's great to see. So yeah, I was happy enough. I didn't really want to see the Panthers win 4 in a row, but I also really don't like seeing the Storm win. So it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Just like last year, I kind of wanted to see a new person take the title, but I didn't want it to be the Broncos.
Yeah.
So, so that is it for the game reviews, mate. It's if only they were one game a week and we could spend most of the time talking rubbish. So we'll go to the tipping comp for the last time this year. We've got an official winner now. I thought it was interesting. 3 people in our competition picked the Panthers. Everyone else picked Storm. Even you picked Panthers. It didn't help you. But no. Rocking Horse Road took out the comp. 156 points in total.
I mean, Richie, surely it's last goal wins.
Yeah.
You'd think so. It helped him stay away from me. MB Sports Fan was second on 153. Tam Hawthorne was third on 148. Simon was fourth, also on 148. Sorry, not 138. Mate, you were fifth with 146. Bjorn winner was sixth on 145. ACT Hellcat, which is Andrew, he got 144 at seventh place. And I got 8th, 143. And then we won't even talk about the rest because they were so far behind because they gave up. I feel like I probably would have done better if I gave up when they did with some of my weeks. But well done, Rocking Horse Road, whoever you be, on winning it.
Great effort.
And I'll come back next year stronger. Disappointing for me, but congrats to everyone. And hopefully we get just as many join us in the comp next year. When we set it up, I'll send the links out on Facebook and everything for everyone to join up again. And Bjorn said, well done, Brad, well done for beating me. I was sure I was going to get above you before the year was done. But that was it. So we'll go to questions. I think we answered everyone's questions, didn't we, Paul?
Yeah, in the live chat you did. But I'll throw my one at you two boys.
Sure.
So does this make the Panthers the greatest ever dynasty that we've seen in rugby league?
No.
No? Okay, who is?
I don't know. No.
Richie, then. If you've given the answer, short and sweet. Richie, go on.
I said the Storm, but you argued with me about it.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it has to be. You've had teams that have won as many. I think the Eels in the 80s went, I think it was 81, 82, 83. Went 3 in a row, and then won a further one a couple of years later in 86. So they won 4 in about 6 or 7 years. Yeah, the Dragons way back decades ago, which went 11 in a row. But I mean, it's a completely different game. Back then, far less teams, no teams outside of Sydney, no salary cap, not professional game. It's just different. So I think for the modern era, definitely, and probably you could argue best of all time.
Yeah, I think my question, Paul shot it down because he said that was franchise, not a dynasty. Because I said the Storm, they haven't won 4 in a row, but they've been in the grand final 11 times in their history, and they've only been around for 27 years. So 27 years they've been in the grand final 11 times. Admittedly, there's a big asterisk there with some cheating though. But yeah,
sort of get ones back to back has been during cheating. I was going to throw Wigan out there as being the other one because Wigan won.
Wigan's the best team in rugby league history. They're the best.
7 on the bounce between the 1989-1990 season and the 1995-96 season, as well as picking up what was it? 5. What do you call it? 5 Challenge Cups as well in that time. So yeah,
they also spanked the Panthers in the World Club Challenge. So
this is during that period, not during the Panthers period. They also did get 3 World Championships in that They also got 3 minor premierships or league leaders shields, as they call it over there, in that time, and won the World Cup championship once as well in that time. So,
Simon's bringing up some interesting facts, but
the best dynasty in that period, rather than
I think you have to say the Panthers 4 in a row. You have to, and the current era with salary cap. The fact, I think there was a side-by-side of the 4 grand finals that they've won and their 17s that played and how many of them are stuck. I think there's 4 players that have been involved in all 4. Everyone else is either gone or moved on or new ones have come in. So the fact that they can still replicate their success with a roster changing. Admittedly, the 4 that have stayed are big key members of their team, but you've lost your hooker, you lost centers, some of them being really good players. My question kind of goes into that for 2025, but without Jerome Luai and your halves, because we know Cleary is only contracted to play half a season. So how will they go with, Blaise Talangi replacing him? Will they still have that same thing? And with James Fisher-Harris leaving as well up front, I feel like as long as you got Nathan and Isaiah Yeo, you're kind of okay. I feel like that's your anchor point. And that kind of goes with Richie's question, that guy in the coach's box. But I saw you did do a question from Bjorn. So we'll go into that before we answer ours.
Yeah, so very quickly, Bjorn said he saw that the Tigers have better odds of winning the 2025 than the Warriors.
Please.
Not only that, the Canberra Raiders are the furthest odds of winning. So the Tigers are better than the Warriors, but Raiders are dead last, which I think is crazy. It's the Jerome Luai effect. I think everyone's expecting him to, myself included, to do good things with the Tigers.
Well, they must be looking at
that's in Australia.
That's right. So in New Zealand, looking at the TAB, the Warriors are $41. The Tigers are at $41, so they're the same. Even here,
which is still not good
in New Zealand. Teams that are better. Only 3 teams are less chance of winning according to TAB than the Warriors. And those are the Knights, the Dragons, and the Raiders. Every other team is higher up.
Yeah, Dragons I understand, but Raiders and Knights I don't. But it's crazy. It always changes. Put your money on the Warriors now, I'm telling you guys. But yeah, so we'll go into our questions. Your question to me, Richie.
My question to you, Brad, was now that they've gone 4 in a row, do you have Ivan Cleary and Nathan Cleary? Where do you have them among the best to ever do it in terms of coaches and players of all time? Do you have them up there?
I was trying to, when you sent me this question earlier, I was trying to think of other player coaches that I would put in comparison. I can't think of any. That's very future or recent bias, because the only one that popped into my head was Walters and Arthur. And I know there are others, but I think they have to be the best.
I don't sort of necessarily mean as like a father-son duo. I mean, separate them and have Cleary ranked amongst the best coaches of all time, and Ivan, and Nathan among the best players of all time.
Nathan's going to go down as the best player.
Yeah,
he will.
Calling it already.
I was calling that. After 2 in a row, going everything he's done. The only thing that he's got against him is that he's rubbish in Origin when he plays it.
But you say that, but he's won a couple of Origin series already as well.
He's won a couple, but
he's lost a few as well.
Mitch Barnett's undefeated in Origin, mate. So, but yeah, and Ivan Cleary, he's getting up there. It's the only thing holding him back is how long others have been there. But, he's been in 5 grand finals with the Panthers. He's been in a grand final with the Warriors. He's won 4 out of 6. So he will probably go down as one of the best. It's just guys like Bennett and Bellamy have longevity, which I don't see Ivan, hanging it up anytime soon. So I think he'll get that longevity too. So yeah, I think you could get to a point where you have the Clearys dominating the conversation in both spheres of player and coach. But yeah, they're, as a father-son duo, which I'm putting them as, they're probably the best.
Oh yeah.
Already,
it's hard to argue with that. I think Cleary of the Nathan variety, I think he will probably go down. It's hard to argue with the record he has now. Rob's rightly pointed out he hasn't dominated Origin. That's very true. He may have won one or two series, but he's not had an Andrew John series. The thing is, he's still got time on his side. He's got years left in the game. So I think when it's all said and done, we're probably going to be putting them top 5.
Does he have to win some World Cups as well? Does it matter what he does on the international scale?
Well, he never gets to play internationals because he's always injured.
He won the last World Cup, eh?
He did win I think, was he in the last World Cup or did he not make the World Cup? Yeah. I can't remember.
No, he was there.
Does that count though? Because they played their final against Samoa.
Well, Samoa beat the next best semi-finalist to make the final.
True. But yeah, I don't think it matters for their scheme of things with internationals because they don't care.
He's played 5 international games, 14 games of Origin. In there.
Yeah, I don't think it matters because they don't take international seriously.
I was just going to say, maybe once upon a time, but yeah.
I was just trying to go to the see if I could see. No, he was in that grand final. Sorry, he kicked 3 from 5 conversions. So and Jagger said what Cleary did in the last 15 minutes of the 23 grand final makes him one of the greatest of all time. Yeah, he single-handedly won that grand final when his team had no right to win it last year because they were getting spanked by the Broncos, and then he decided to just take it to another level. And that will probably be the thing they talk about when he becomes an immortal, when his time comes. Because he'll be one. God knows when that will be. We're talking like 40, 50 years away probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, my question to you, mate, it's very Panthers heavy question section. The Panthers have now bagged 4 premierships in a row. Do you think they make it 5 next year?
You kind of answered this question for me already.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. Year after year, during this last 4 or 5 years, they've been successful. They lose a few really good players. Year upon year, they get good players squeezed out. As long as that nucleus is there, Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, is still going to keep Clive Churchill winner, Liam Martin. Still got Ivan Cleary coaching. The rest, the rest fill in the spaces that are left, and they bring in new people and they develop into outstanding players. It's just an outstanding team. So whether or not they win it next year, I think there's still going to be every chance, and it's hard to say they won't be in the running.
Yeah, I feel every year we kind of write them off, going, okay, no, they've lost too many people now. And then they go through and win again. So I'm not going to put all my money on them winning it, but I believe they'll be in the grand final again. At least.
Luai and Fisher Harris are 2 pretty big important players to lose. They kind of form combinations. Fisher Harris with Leota, Luai with Cleary. That's the only thing. It feels like this time the losses are quite significant ones, but I still can't confidently say they're going to fall off. I think they'll still be up there.
Yeah.
So looking at the TAB odds for next year, the Panthers are at $4.50, but the Storm at $3.75. And then we drop down to one of your favourites, the Sharks, and amazingly the Broncos at $9, even though the Broncos finished 12th this year. It's a bit surprisingly, those two ahead of the Roosters, who are $17 down there. So they're the next level down.
Roosters have lost a lot of key players, which is I feel like this year was their last chance for a while to go all the way. And I don't have the faith in Trent Robertson as I do in Cleary as a coach, which is crazy with what he's accomplished himself.
You've got there are three teams on $17. You've got the Bulldogs, the Roosters, and the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs, who finished 16th this year, are at $17 to win it next year. About eighth. And it's amazing what they think a changing coach is going to do at the Rabbits, but we'll see.
Yeah, and Bjorn said Storm are keeping their 2024 team and getting a decent prop. Yeah. I think I said that earlier on in the review. I would not be surprised if it's Panthers Storm Grand Final in 2025 again. I feel like they still have the potential to be head and shoulders above everyone else. Any other team played the Panthers in that Grand Final, they get spanked. Any other team plays the Storm in that Grand Final, they get spanked. That's how much better they are. So that is it for the questions. So we've already talked. We've let the secret out already about next week's show. So next week we have no game to review, and internationals will still be a week away. So we'll take a look back at the predictions we made in our first episode of the season and see how wrong we were. Spoilers. I sent. I've got a spreadsheet of all the predictions we made.
Paul's looking for
that we did. And then I just highlighted them red if we got them right, green if we got them red if we got them wrong, green if we got them right. Richie and I did not get a single prediction right. Paul got 2 right, and that was the best we could do. In terms of picking the top 8, we did not pick a single team in the right position, but we all, for some reason, picked 3 teams that didn't make it, and we all picked the same 3 teams. So we'll talk about that next week. So we all got 5 of the 8 we picked of the 8. We just didn't get anyone in the right order. And then we'll also be announcing our winners of the Standoff Awards. Bjorn threw us some more categories, which I've just added to my spreadsheet. But normally we have like our player of the year, story of the year, worst haircut, biggest blunder, and viewers moment, which I'll do a social media post asking you guys what was your moment of the year, and then whatever we get back, we'll make that the award. But yeah, I have now added best high tackle, best 10 in the bin, worst bunker call, and worst refs call.
So are you going to Facebook or Twitter for your for that Facebook that post?
I put it out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter when I ask. Say, like, what's your viewers moment? And see, we didn't get a lot of people answer back. So last year, we got 2.
Okay. So just put into the live chat a link to Brad's Facebook page. So look in the messages and you'll see a link to his Facebook page, and look out for that post so you can join us. Or you can just comment below this post on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll pick them out from there as well.
Yeah, so I'll send this stuff through to Richard later on so he can give me his picks for the awards, and then I'll make pretty pictures, and then I bombard Paul with far too many slides that we go through. So it should be good. We usually basically, unless there's something breaking, we kind of leave the news. Unless there's something super big, and we just dedicate it to that because there's quite a bit to go through and we don't want to keep you here for too long like I've done now. We'll go to overseas now before we let everyone else go.
What you mean? You've got one game to review and it's taken an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. And we'll go even longer next week with no games to review. So I said last week I'd try to look into the Catalan Dragons flight situation in the Super League. I didn't find a lot, but I've got a little bit. So I'm going to go through Sebastian Munoz, probably butchered his name. He's the CEO for the Catalans. He's the new CEO. He told local media for the first time in the club's history, next year we have to pay all the expenses incurred by visiting Super League teams and RFL officials. This means travel costs, flights, hotels, meals, transfers, everything involved in a trip to Perpignan. It's a significant cost, which means we are still calculating fully. We are already beyond 400,000 euros, and we're still in the process of refining it. It's a significant cost, and we'll have to find ways to meet this additional expense. Since joining Super League in 2006, the Dragons haven't contributed to visiting teams' expenses at all, although Toulouse have been doing it since 2009. Admittedly, they're not in top grade anymore. Earlier in the year, Rugby League commercial manager, director Rodri Jones announced on the League Express podcast that he would bring Catalans in line with Toulouse. He said in March, there's an amount of money leaving the British game to go to France, and we all know what that amount is, but what do we get back in return for it? A number of stakeholders will say the benefits all going to France in terms of distribution and a TV deal, but what is coming back? That is one of the questions we need to answer and work through to ensure the French club participation in Super League is done at a level playing field. When the decision was announced, the owner of Catalans, Bernard Gauche, responded by admitting the club had to put something in the pot because of a failure to realise any funds from television rights in France. He added, I understand the situation. We have to find a solution because it will handicap us financially as it handicapped Toulouse during their year in the Super League. I know that's a lot of information. I understand what they're getting at because the Super League's not as financially viable as like the NRL. Like I believe the NRL covers the cost of teams coming to New Zealand. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I know the Warriors don't cover that, but I don't know if that's also due to deals clubs might have with like planes and stuff, because I think New Zealand, I think the Warriors have like some relationship with New Zealand.
Do you think that's something because the NRL was talking about the possibility of buying out the Super League? You think that would come up? The NRL would swallow that cost?
Yeah, and there you go. Yeah, Simon's confirmed it. He said the Warriors don't pay for the other teams in the NRL. The TV deal covers all of that. Yeah, so the NRL cover all of that stuff due to the TV deal, but the Super League don't have that type of equity because they're essentially a dying competition.
I'm sure the Warriors would much rather have all the TV money from Sky and pay for other people's travel. That'd be good.
But yeah, it's just the way it is in Super League at the moment. They're struggling. They do need an NRL or something to come in and buy it and just fix it because it's a mess. I think they need to rework a lot of things. It's a very one-sided competition. They play each other far too often. I know they're really into the local derbies, but the crowds aren't going there. So I don't see the NRL never going to buy the Super League, in my opinion. I think if they did, it would be way after they've got to their expansion plans. Their focus is the expanding. Buying the Super League is just going to be another distraction when they're trying to do their own thing. I think if they get to 20 teams, which is their goal, and they want to look at branching out, I feel like they would, if they buy it, it will just become like a feeder competition. Basically, they'll want the best talent from the Super League coming down here. And yeah, Simon said the English rugby league structure is the problem. Clubs in lower divisions have to dictate how structures the game work, and it doesn't work with the current strategic partners. Yeah, it's all a mess. But we're going on far too long already, Simon. We could talk about this for hours. But I think like you and me might be the only ones that actually give a shit about the Super League. But the semi-finals, mate, we were wrong with our predictions.
Yeah.
So we predicted Warrington-Wigan final, Challenge Cup rematch. Hull KR obviously watched the show and were like, nah. So Hull KR defeated Warrington 10-8. Very surprising, but well done to Hull KR. And then Wigan made a mockery of the whole competition, defeated Lee 38-0. So we had the grand final this week, Wigan versus Hull KR, and I am on Team Wigan, so I'm hoping
Team Wigan.
I'm hoping Wigan get the job done and make it. And yes, I'm saying it's not Warrington's year. No. I think even if Warrington got there, I still had Wigan winning it again, going back to back. But yeah, well done to both teams making it. We will mention who wins in our long show of the awards. And Bjorn said, bring the beers for next week's show. Will be tops. Yeah, I might buy a couple of beers for the awards show.
Yeah,
so
why
not what I normally do, but we're celebrating. Paul's always drinking on the shows. It's the only way you can listen to us talking about league. But yeah, I might grab a couple of brewskis for our awards show. But that's it. Unless you want to add anything else, guys.
I'm happy.
There was a lot of information. Simon said he's going to try and watch the final. It's live 6 a.m. Sunday. Yeah, I am going to be away this weekend, so I don't think I'm going to get away with that. But I might see what I can do. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight and joining us on Standoff with Brad and Richie for our standoff prediction and award show next week. Tune in at 8 o'clock on Wednesday on Facebook, YouTube, or listen to us later on Spotify Radio. Just remember for all of them to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers for joining me on the road, Richie, and thank you, Paul, for actually watching the game this week and giving us some valuable insight. And good night, everyone.